Okay, let's dive into this explainer by addressing a moment we all know a little too well. You've done it again. You're standing directly in front of someone you've met at least 3 times, maybe 4. They smile, you nod, and suddenly, their name is just gone. Not even hovering on the tip of your tongue, but completely, cleanly absent, like it was never filed away in the first place. What follows are about 12 seconds of pure internal panic and improvised theater. You subtly angle your body, desperately hoping someone else in the room jumps in and says their name first. Trying to effortlessly mask that panic, well, it can feel especially absurd. But I want you to take a breath and listen closely, because this explainer is going to show you exactly what your brain is doing in those moments.
So when that name vanishes, what do you immediately think? You probably ask yourself, what is wrong with my memory? You enter this quiet, internal shame spiral. Society has long told us that forgetting a name is a sign of disrespect, a lack of care, or even a sign of lower intelligence. You start to worry that you're just moving through the world without really registering other people. It feels like a moral failure. But the truth is, the people who chronically and consistently forget names are not careless, they are not rude, and they are absolutely not unintelligent.
Actually, your brain is engaging in a complex, highly efficient process called semantic encoding. This is simply the brain's way of prioritizing meaning, context, and emotion over arbitrary surface-level labels. I want to assure you right now, with absolute certainty, this is not a memory deficit. Your mind is just wired for depth, not surface. It operates on the principle of meaning. Information that carries heavy emotional, symbolic, or contextual weight, that's what gets fixed in your memory. Everything else just gets filtered right out.
Section 1. The meaning of a name, a rootless sound.
To your highly evolved, incredibly complex neural network, a name is quite literally the thinnest piece of information it receives. It comes with almost zero context. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin from McGill University framed this with perfect authoritative clarity. He said, names are arbitrary sound sequences without direct semantic link. Really think about that for a second. A face is a massive, complex system. A voice is a character. A gesture tells an entire story. But a name like Kevin or Aisha, it's just an isolated, rootless sound. Your brain looks at that sound, decides this doesn't mean anything to me yet, and just drops it.
And there's a classic study from 1987 by researchers McWeeny and Ellis that brilliantly illustrates this. It's called the Baker/Baker paradox. They showed people a photo. Half the group was told the person is a baker by profession. The other half was told the person's last name is Baker. Days later, the people who learned the occupation remembered it far more easily than those who learned the name. Why? Because the job baker automatically activates a massive web of mental associations: early mornings, flour, warmth, fresh bread. The name Mr. Baker, it activates absolutely nothing.
There is a profound metaphor for how our memory handles this. Think about the last funeral you attended. You probably remember the specific, heavy silence in the room, the smell of the flowers, or a deeply resonant sentence someone spoke. You don't remember the printed text on the order of service. As psychologists note, names are the order of service. Everything else about a person is the funeral. Your brain is ruthlessly efficient. It prioritizes high emotion and atmosphere over printed, arbitrary text.
Section 2. Brain under pressure, social overload. Picture yourself at a party, a networking event, or a bustling office. You aren't just calmly sitting there receiving a name. Your brain is actually under immense social pressure and mild overload. In the exact moment someone says, "Hi, I'm Mark," your working memory, that short-term holding space in your prefrontal cortex, is juggling at least 6 major tasks all at once. It's reading their face, registering their tone, calculating your social standing, checking your own posture, figuring out if they even like you, and planning what you're supposed to say next. Into that exact moment of cognitive chaos, you are handed a single arbitrary sound. Frankly, your brain is just too busy to babysit it.
And if you're someone who's naturally a bit in your own head, or if you deal with any social anxiety, there's a whole other layer. Back in 1973, psychologist Malcolm Brenner documented what's known as the next-in-line effect. He found that when you are anticipating your own turn to speak, your memory for what the person right before you just said is dramatically reduced. That active internal monologue, wondering is my handshake too firm or what do I say next, literally bulldozes the name right out of your short-term memory. You are editing yourself in real time, which means you're already half a step into the future when the name is offered.
Section 3. How brains network. Categorical folders. Now what about the names we do know perfectly well?
People frequently mix up the names of their closest family members, or even call a child by the family dog's name. Let's be real, it happens. Data from researcher Samantha Deffler found that when people are called the wrong name by someone familiar, 95% of the time that mistake is made by a family member. It is overwhelmingly common. Parents do it, grandparents do it, and yes, they frequently mix up the kids' names with the canine's name.
So why exactly does this happen? Well, Dr. Judith Heidbrink, a professor of neurology, explains that our brains store information in categorical networks. When you're talking quickly, your brain is frantically retrieving words from a specific folder, like the loved ones in my house folder. As we age, our brains just lose a tiny bit of the dexterity needed to suppress the wrong words in that same folder. So substituting a similar name is really just a minor, perfectly normal retrieval glitch. It is not a sign of impending dementia. It just means your network is heavily populated with people you care about.
Section 4. Mind of an archivist. Depth over tags.
This brings us to a major paradigm shift for this explainer. If you are someone who chronically forgets names during introductions, we need to completely redefine what that means about your personality and your cognitive style. You do not have a memory problem. You have a preoccupation problem. Society basically has two types of processors here. We have the natural label keepers. These are people who easily encode job titles, middle names, and birthdays. But then we have what psychologists call emotional archivists. If you forget names but remember exactly how someone felt about their failed project or the specific way they laughed, you are an emotional archivist. You lose the label, but you keep the person.
Emotional archivists actually share very specific psychological traits. They focus deeply on context. They are highly associative thinkers, meaning their memory relies on rich, interconnected stories. Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer studied this exact phenomenon of conscious presence, and she found something amazing. People who are highly conscious and deeply involved in the present moment actually tend to remember fewer peripheral details, like names and dates. Because you are so intensely focused on listening to the actual human being in front of you, your brain sacrifices this superficial label.
In contemporary psychology, this deep focus is tied to something called mentalization, which is the ability to construct a deep internal model of someone's intentions and state of mind. To put it in Jungian terms, you are looking right past the persona, the social mask, to read the deeper emotional signals beneath. Doing this takes a massive amount of cognitive bandwidth. So while your mind is busy building a profound, authentic image of who this person truly is, it completely ignores the mechanical, administrative task of recording their name.
Section 5. The mental bridge. Manual override.
Now look, names are still important. Being remembered makes people feel seen. So you can use a manual override to build a bridge between that arbitrary sound of a name and your naturally rich mental landscape. Step 1. Repeat the name immediately out loud. Step 2. Build a visual link. Associate Lily with a flower, or connect Kevin to another Kevin you already know. Step 3. Consciously focus your attention for just a few seconds during the introduction. By doing this, you're forcing a meaningless sound into a contextual image. You're giving your highly associative brain a tangible reason to keep it.
I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. The next time a name slips from your mind, ask yourself, are you just losing the label to keep the person? Stop turning this into a moral failure. You are not absent, and you are not dismissive. You simply possess a mental architecture that seeks the soul of an interaction rather than its superficial tags. You prioritize the truth of the encounter over the order of service. And once you realize that, you can finally drop the guilt, appreciate your own deep empathy, and step into your next conversation with a whole new kind of confidence.